the FNL Network talk show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the FNL Network talk show. I am your host tonight, Marianne Estridge, and we have with us Holly, Kay, and Eugenia, and we have some awesome topics to go over tonight. How's everybody doing?
Under the weather.
How's everybody's weekend? Everybody have a pretty good weekend?
Good.
Yeah. It's SAG Awards in LA. There's so much happening, lots of action. It's award season and really excited.
Oh yeah. I bet that was a lot of fun. Well, we have plenty to go over tonight, a lot of very interesting topics, and I'm excited to dive into those with you guys. So everybody has brought a topic this evening. So I am going to start with Holly. What topic did you want to bring this evening for us to go over and discuss?
Hello, Marianne. Hello, ladies. I'm happy to be on the FNL Network tonight. My topic that I had was the Surprise Me TikTok challenge. I saw that challenge. This lovely young girl. She basically goes and does the drive-through. Now, she doesn't call in advance to tell the staff of Starbucks that she's coming. So there's this trend on TikTok called the Surprise Me drink. And so you go through the line, and as you go through the to-go line, there's like a long line. And when you go, you order, I'll take Surprise Me. And for this woman, as it usually works for everyone else, somebody shoots her down. This particular staff member says, how about we just stick with that? I don't know about that, but how about I can just take your order? And then the whole thing goes viral. People start attacking the barista. People start attacking her. They pick sides, the barista versus her. It's just this whole spiel. And now people are dissing every Starbucks establishment, every Dunkin' Donut, everything. I mean, this whole thing is going viral. People are saying, did she do the right thing? Was proper etiquette shown? And so I just found that interesting because TikTok is a huge platform. It's a huge platform. And I think a lot of people are using that. And so this was supposed to catch. So this was kind of a surprise and like a thing gone wrong. This is like a challenge gone wrong. So she thought it would catch she thought it would catch on, and it unfortunately did not, because of a barista who had a bad attitude. Bad attitude barista is what we all call it. So yeah, that's interesting. Well, how does everyone feel about that?
So essentially, it was the barista with a bad attitude. I know, I get everybody has a bad day sometimes, everybody. But if she wanted a surprise drink, I think that sounds like fun. I mean, if I was a barista, I'd be like, cool, let's make something different, I know it's up to the individual, but was she wanting, I guess she was wanting it to be on TikTok to kind of go viral. I don't know exactly what her motive may have been, but as far as the barista having an attitude with her, that wasn't necessary. Life is short. I think we should have fun. I think we should be kind. And I think that would have been an opportunity to have a good time, to, kind of like when you're a little kid and you're making mud pies. I mean, it's like you can make up something, especially if somebody wants you to. If somebody's like, hey, I'm in this fun mood, I want to have a good time, let's make up something different. I don't see a problem with it. What about everybody else?
Absolutely, yes. What about you guys?
I think it's interesting. I haven't seen the video, but I think the premise is interesting, but also I kind of get the barista's point of view, because I'm at work. I don't have time to do nobody's TikTok project, honey. I'm here trying to make a living. I gotta earn money. I gotta pull down the job. I don't have time to be helping you go viral and playing your little games. I could see how maybe the barista was like, not today, girl. Just order a Frappuccino and keep it moving. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think about it. I just think about the barista. Like, I don't know how long her shift was. And also, like, sometimes people will try and suck you into their like little silly TikTok things to kind of make a joke of you. Like, I'm not trying to be somebody's punchline. So, because whatever you never know what people's motives are. I know one time I was at the Grove, and these people did like a TikTok stunt. And you could totally tell afterwards. There was a camera there. This lady like ripped her dress off, and she had on a bikini, and she was like screaming at this guy. And before that, she was trying to interact with a friend with myself and a friend of mine who's from out of town. And I just knew something was up. So I was like, no, girl, come on, keep walking, keep walking. And then not even 5 minutes later, we saw this girl rip off her dress with a bikini, screaming at the guy, and somebody comes out with the video camera. And I was like, see, that could have been us looking like some fools on somebody's little prank video. Like, I don't have time for any of that. Like, I'm not here for any nonsense. So I don't know. I can see the barista side is all I'm saying. I could see her vantage point where maybe she was like, no, not today, TikTok.
And that's what a lot of people,
that's what a lot
of people were saying. Yeah, go ahead.
I like that Kay brought that up, because I think that it's important to put yourself in the other person's shoes. And Kay, I think that's exactly what you were doing. And I think that shows empathy. That shows that you're willing to look at both sides of the coin. And you're right. You never know what kind of day somebody's having. You never know what's going on in someone's life. And although, yes, it may be fun, like I said initially, you never know. You never know what that person's dealing with, going through. And they may just, at the end of the day, they just want to make their paycheck and go home.
Not only that, you guys, I would like, I love what Kay brought up. You're like, I don't want to be part of it because, let's think about this. TikTok was started by China in 2016. And if you do research in China, TikTok is limited. And it's strictly, like mostly, as I understand, it's educational. And in America, it is brought as a weapon, I think, to really like polarize things and kind of dumb down the population. I can see that, it gets you addicted to all these challenges, like cheese board, whatever it is, it's super dangerous for mental health. I personally don't think it's cute at all. Like, I think it dumbs us down as a storytellers or people who are connecting, it kind of separates us and brings the challenges. Obviously, it makes one person against the other. And it's never a clear story. We all live under a microscope. We never know when somebody's going to jump at you and make you part of like, attention-seeking desperation, honestly. I can see it with my kids. Like they spend their time, following these challenges and they put so much effort. And just think about it in China, and hopefully we won't get canceled, because I swear to God, we have to watch technology, like using Instagram. I've been banned by 2 countries this week, by Russia, and I'm not political. I am Russian, okay? I don't have any political preference or sides. I think it's all corrupted, and I'm a big humanitarian, and I've been like prohibited in Japan for one post, just because the techno companies like figured out maybe I mentioned one word, it doesn't go with something else. So, I think we have to think critically. We're all just small pawns in the big machine, and there's a manipulation, I think, of course, it's always good to use any platform for good or connection, but it is really tough. And I just think living in a society like that, it's disheartening for me personally. So I refuse to have TikTok no matter what my agents say. And they say, oh, like you can have this movie because you have this amount of TikTok followers, but I'm not going to do the desperate, desperation. Screw you. So I don't know. And my dog agrees, by the way. He's like,
oh, bring them out. Bring them out. There they are.
It's like, I'm done.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, man. honestly, my take also is I'm gonna have to agree with you, Jenny. I'm gonna have to agree with Marianne and Kay on this. I love it. Should she have called in advance? Maybe she made the mistake of calling in advance. I don't see a problem with either one, but should she have called ahead maybe to warn somebody? Some people just have a bad day. Everyone's entitled to one, so.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Everybody has bad days. And while, like I said, we can have fun and laugh, not everybody's in a laughing mood, and you just don't know. I'm glad that Kate kind of brought that up and opened that door to discuss that, because it's not always just one-sided. So that was a very, very interesting start to our show tonight. So the next topic I'm going to ask Miss Kay about your topic for this evening.
Yeah, so my topic was about the loneliness epidemic. So a lot of behavioral scientists have kind of rung the alarm, and they're talking about Americans in particular are going through a loneliness epidemic where people feel more disconnected than ever, even coming out of the pandemic. I think we all went through our own degrees of loneliness during the pandemic, but kind of emerging, things are open back up mostly. They're saying they're just seeing some lasting effects of that. And I was wondering if you guys agree with that. Do you feel like there's a loneliness epidemic? And if you do, what do you think we can do to kind of combat that? Eugenia, what do you think?
I totally agree with you. I do so much research, Kay, and especially among girls, and I have been trying to work to advocate and spread the awareness about that, because a lot of times, as humans, we're wired for connection. And that's what they say, even the depression is not your fault. It's just because don't have the tools to be connected, because we're wired for that. So being disconnected in pandemic, I think everybody's life changed so drastically, and the way to communicate now is online, right? I can notice it in my changes of life. I don't have to go to any meetings, auditions, any kind of things unless I'm on set shooting, actually. And even though you're on set, there are some people who don't feel as comfortable anymore. They have to wear a mask or stay away which I respect. Everybody's very sensitive, but it also, just hugging, or it's what gives us oxytocin. It's all very scientific, and it is necessary for anybody. And also, I think having kids, I can say that their way of socializing is by playing games or doing online communication. That's the way they, spend their time. They have anxiety. Like I said, I think another time my kids call me from another room to get them something. There's too much technology, and I think not enough of nature. And that's how we wired. I don't know. I mean, I think the solution is just to have these times where you put your phone away and spend the whole time communicating and connecting, even though it's very uncomfortable. In a lot of families now, if you go out, you can see people always being on the phone. Go to airports, there's no connection. People are in all their own reality. And I think it does affect you unless you're really conscious. It's so easy subconsciously to be distracted in that. Yeah, I think the only way to connect is to go back to your roots, go back to nature. And I just hope I can help my kids to improve in that sense. Also for girls and Instagram and all the filters, there's so much pressure to do a certain standard of beauty. And I feel it's imposed on us in so many ways. I don't know how about you, but in Los Angeles, everywhere you drive, it's okay, Kim Kardashian, whatever, so I feel like even in modeling world, everybody just became that one standard of beauty. And it just doesn't give you a way to authentically express yourself. And I know for boys as well, there's a lot of pressure in the culture. There's cancel culture. There's things that your life is under microscope, and we all do mistakes, like you guys said. Nobody's perfect, and then you're judged on the on national arena, and everybody has an opinion. So I feel that definitely brings a lot of anxiety. I think therapy, I just hope that everybody has a way to call a therapist, to connect, to talk. I think talking is very important, and, hugging, and just, if you can't hug a person, go hug a tree, that's the way. Or, even like if you see somebody sad, just go and hug them on the street and get out of your phone. Like a lot of times I see people don't even notice, the homelessness or any other kind of situations.
What do you think, Marianne? Are you with Eugenia, hugging strangers on the street? Eugenia, she's
Yeah, I'm actually, I've done that before. And I'm sure that it probably weirds some people out, because there was one time, and this is years ago, I was at a salon, and this mean woman made the girl behind the desk start crying. And I went back there and hugged her. And I'm like, sorry, but I feel like I need to hug you. And she was very receptive, but I'm a very huggy person. And I think Eugenia is spot on that authentic human connection is important. I think that we need that. And with the pandemic, as it has brought a lot of good as far as technology and being able to work from home, do things from home, do things remotely, I think there's some other things that it's kind of split our connections. We don't see each other in person. It's always online. And I think that does create loneliness. I think it does impact depression. And I think that there's really no substitute for authentic human connection. And in addition to hugging people, I'm an animal person. I have a bunch. I love to hug my animals. I mean, they can't talk to me, but they definitely help. And I'm a huge advocate for therapy. Like Eugenia was saying, therapy I think is great. And I don't think there's any shame at all. I've been to therapy. I've needed it greatly in certain periods of my life. I don't think there's any shame in it. And I think with everything that's happened with COVID, I think people being sick, family members passing away, people being isolated, I think depression has definitely increased overall. And I think it's going to take some time to adjust. And, while I personally think that people should be allowed to do things like work remotely if they're able to, I do think that getting connected in person with other people is still important. And I don't think there's a substitute for that.
Yeah, no, I completely and totally agree with you on that, Marianne. Like the idea of just like those rusty connection skills, I think just they were driven by the pandemic. And then now that we're coming out, I just know for myself coming out, meeting people in person, even now, months later, I've been meeting people face to face for months, but I still feel rusty. I still feel like, wait, you know how to talk to people, make a connection. I have to talk myself through it sometimes, just because I feel like I'm so rusty at it. Like I'm really I'm just not as great and fast and sharp as I used to be. Holly, what are your feelings about just the loneliness epidemic and maybe how technology is playing a part in it? Or what are some other things that you think are affecting that whole epidemic of loneliness?
I think there's not just an epidemic of loneliness, even though I think that COVID made everything worse and things and pandemics and the news and everything. I feel like there's something that is plaguing even loneliness, and it's narcissism. Oh my gosh, is this a narcissistic world? I mean, like you can't, like everything is click, 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 myself. And I get it. There's a level of respect because I know influencers, that kind of thing. I get it. You're in the media. There's a certain form of that you have to, you have a career out of that. And we're living in the generation Z generation and with the millennials and all generations that are actually having to be savvy to that. Completely understand. But it becomes narcissistic when people try to come at you. And I totally agree with Marianne and Eugenia when I say hugging. Everyone needs a hug. But I'm going to also get real. Don't be hugging me if I don't know you. Like, I love you, but don't touch me. Like, don't, because you may have some stuff. And what if negativity got on you and you just imparted negativity onto me? Like, I believe in touching, I believe in hugging, but there are levels. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there are levels, and sometimes you got to guard stuff because people's junk can get on you. They can mess you up. You don't know where they've been, that kind of thing. And you don't want to judge anybody. You want to love everybody, but just don't touch me. I don't know where your hands have been. I don't know where you've been. I don't know where your mouth has been. I don't know what nothing. Like, and I love you. Like I said, this is not coming from a negative point of view. This is coming from an I don't know you point of view. I'm not just going to be open to everybody. I'm going to love you, and I'm going to use kind words, and I'm going to use my words, and I'm going to use hand gestures. I'm going to go the extra mile, but some people just have this narcissistic, because they don't just come at you and try to hug you. They try to tell you all their problems, and oh, good, this is what I'm going through. And then you're kind of just like staring at them, and then you're just blinking, and then you're thinking, any moment now, you're going to ask me how I am, like any moment now. And they just keep going, like 30 minutes worth into it. And you're just like, so I believe that there is a level of narcissism that media, that everything has made. The ways that we can combat that are to ask, how are you doing? Don't even tell people about yourself. Don't even tell people about what you're going through. I was kind of raised like that. Like, if you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say anything. Don't say what you're going through. Don't be anyone's trash can. Don't let your emergency be somebody else's emergency. Come, be nice and be mannerly, but also know your boundaries, and be loving, but know your boundaries and know who you are. And I think everyone can agree on that.
Yeah, so I think I agree with you on that important part of like guarding your space. But when we're talking about people being lonely, it's like Marianne said, they need that human connection. And so I'm a school counselor. I work with kids, and lately on my docket, I've had a lot of kids where I'm working with connection with them, with making friendships. Some of them are on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum, and deal with different things. But I think it's just important to remember, like Holly was saying, I teach them, I'm now going through teaching a couple of kids just how to have a conversation. The difference between lecturing and having a seminar and speaking, and having a conversation, and, telling them, this is how you ask a question, you respond, they respond, you ask a follow-up question, you tell something about yourself, and then you ask another question. It's like a game of catch. You're going back and forth. And so, yeah, Holly, I just feel like the people you're talking about, narcissists, just never learn that a conversation is like a game of catch, right? They just never learn that back and forth. And what's ironic is those are the people who are going to be the loneliest, right? Because they aren't actually making the connection. Talking at people, when you walk away, you might feel validated. Oh, I got a lot of stuff off my chest, but then you'll realize you didn't get anything back, right? So no true connection was made. You're just talking at someone. It's a very different effect. It's great to be heard, but to cure that loneliness epidemic, we need a connection, right? So yeah, I think
so true. I just want to add to that, like, kudos to you to teach kids that. I think it's so important. And I always go by like trying to come from curiosity and empathy. So if you're curious about something and you want to really know something about somebody else, that's a good way to go. And also listening rather than trying to solve something or, trying to come up with something clever to say. And Holly, I understand we live in Los Angeles is not a place where people don't do media and hug trees. So I totally understand the narcissism part of it. I've been to a party recently where I didn't even want to go to. I just went because I wanted to see some people, and I felt bad like ignoring it. And I showed up and everybody was taking selfies. And I was like, nobody would even notice if you're there. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing. It's like any event you go to, it's like, okay, I need to take the selfie, and everybody pushes everybody away to take the selfie with a cliff view. So that's a little bit of a challenge of, connection. And I wonder what's going to happen next. Hopefully it's not going to turn into, remember that movie Her, where the guy fell in love with Siri or whatever, it's like, hopefully we're not going that way.
Oh my gosh. Woo. That would be something. I think that's a really important topic. I think we could really continue digging into that because, there's so much that we could say about that, the pandemic of loneliness, so to speak. Eugenia, how about your topic for this evening? I'd love to hear yours.
Okay, you guys, I'm gonna be super boring. I never thought I would come up with this question. I was like, this is the worst thing to talk about in any kind of situation, a social situation. But it just like, I was sitting in my car and the rain was pouring and the snow started. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to talk about it because my heater is in Los Angeles, like on, it's really bad. There's some things happening in the world for sure, which is not normal. And I think we need to address it because I feel like people just ignore it. But the climate change has been insane. Like I never seen snow in LA. My kids never seen snow in their life before. Like they saw it last year in the mountains, but this year I was shocked to wake up in the desert a few days ago to see snow. They're waiting for the second biggest snowstorm in New York. There's so many earthquakes. What do you think? Like, how are your feelings about that? What do you think we can do on like smaller level? Or what do you do? How do you prepare for things like that? And, it just like, are you conscious about what is happening around, or are you just blocking everything with TikTok? Like, I'm just curious, like how you feel about the outside weather things. Whoever wants to have the opinion to go first.
Sure. So I have definitely noticed a change in the weather. Here in North Carolina, I've noticed a change. You're talking about LA. I don't know that I've ever heard of snow in LA. That's a new one for me. I definitely think there is some climate change going on. It's definitely happening. As far as what we can do, there are ways that people can come together to help it. It has to be a collective goal. But even, if one person does it and another person does it, and then multiple people do it, it can make a difference. But for example, one of my family members has solar panels, like solar energy. That's something that's helpful. Taking the bus or public transportation, as silly as it sounds, these little things can all help with climate change. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Walking places, alternative forms of transportation. There's so many other things that we could do, especially if you're in a bigger city. Someone like me who's rural and out in the middle of nowhere, there's not a whole lot of options, but there are electric vehicles. I don't know how you guys feel about those.
I don't know. Tesla is controversial. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Like my husband's car wouldn't start because it was overheated and I thought we're going to crash somewhere. So
no.
I wonder how you feel about it actually.
Electric vehicles. I've never been interested in having one, but I think I'm one of those people that if it isn't broke, don't fix it. I tend to keep things until they absolutely do not work anymore. And it's the unknown for me. I'd be a little bit scared of the unknown. Change is scary. Change is scary for a lot of people. But I've had friends that really, really like theirs. So I guess it really is a personal preference. But, there are alternative energy sources that we can all explore if we really, if we wanted to. I think that's definitely one way to combat climate change.
What do you think, guys?
I feel like it seems so much like a big and daunting thing to fight. I watched this documentary that I thought was going to be like really, and it was super educational. It's on Netflix. I can't think of the name of it right now. But when we post this, then I'll put it in the notes. But it's basically, you think it's going to be about recycling, but then it ends up being really depressing because it tells you like out of everything you recycle, like when you put everything in the recycling bin, like less than 10% of the things that you put in recycling actually are recyclable and actually get recycled. It's like all of these really depressing statistics. So when I walked away from it, it would say something like, if you use an electric or a hybrid vehicle for 10 years, like you save like this much on emissions, but all you have to do is like take a plane trip once a year, and that'll negate all the emissions you did for 10 years of driving. It was just like super depressing. So I walked away from it and I was just like, what can I do? Like, what, like, I like, no matter what I do, I'm doing all these amazing things. I'm working so hard, but like, if Kim Kardashian wants to go to the Cayman Islands, she's going to negate everything that I've done for a full year. You know what I mean?
Okay, was it conspiracy?
I'm telling you, it was so depressing. But you know what? It did make me think, because it was depressing and it made me feel very it felt like very like counterproductive. But also, it did make me realize, you know what? I can only do what I can do, right? And that's just like kind of a counseling mantra. Anytime I'm trying to do anything or do any kind of sustainable work and change in my own life, I try and be kind and patient with myself. And I just repeat the mantra, I can only do what I can do, right? So I know I'm doing my little teeny part by recycling everything I own, by shopping at thrift stores, you know, by driving a low emissions vehicle. But I can't worry about what everyone else in the world is doing, right? I mean, I can make my small change and then just think to myself, I'm doing what I can. I can't worry about the things that are out of my control, right? The biggest pollutants on the planet are people, they're companies, right? Like, so I can't let that dissuade me from doing small incremental changes in my own life, even though Kim Kardashian is, you know, doing her part to undo all the work I'm doing. No, I'm just kidding, you guys. I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm talking about Kim Kardashian. I'm teasing. But you know what I'm saying? Like, for myself, I've just come to the place where I've realized, like, okay, that's that. I can only do what I can. I can't get worked up or too upset about things that are outside of my control. I work really hard on Circle of Influence, right? So.
Okay, was it Seaspiracy, the documentary? Was it about oceans and plastic or no?
It did have some garbage patch stuff in it that was really depressing, yes.
Yeah, because we try to collect like plastic from the beach and then they say like it doesn't affect as much as you guys think, but you know. Holly, what do you think?
I feel like whenever we don't, I'm gonna just say it. We need to all like start obeying our mamas and what our mama raised us on. Like when our parents like tell us, "Hey, make your bed," or "Hey, you know, you're eating at school," and say, you know, throw away your trash. It just goes back to simplistics of animal like qualities that we have. Like don't litter. Don't, you know, pick up your tray, that kind of thing. Like, don't litter on the streets. Don't do this. Don't do that. And like, we're actually all going against natural selection too, because we have planes that fly in the air and like spray things into the environment. And then they're saying that it's okay type of thing. And then the next thing you know, they're making everyone sick. So there are things on a day-to-day basis, not just what we're doing, but the higher ups, whatever, that are doing stuff on a natural basis that are going against nature, that are going against, like, it's kind of, you know, they're going against our survival rate. They're going against evolving. They're going against how we, the ecosystem and how we survive and how we eat, and things that eat us, things that we eat, that, you know, that going back to science, that natural selection. So yet we can definitely do our part, but it's really out of our control, guys. I hate to say it. I mean, I love Eugenia's topic. I definitely agree with her. This world is insane. You've got snow, you've got hurricanes, you've got 120 degrees like everywhere, you know, randomly. One day it's hot, one day it's cold. I mean, it's insane. But what are you going to do? You can't stop planes that fly and spray things in the air. You can't stop it all. So what are we going to do? We can definitely do our part. We can definitely keep the positivity going. We can definitely keep doing what we're doing. But honestly, I guess we can stand against the standing against of the ecosystem, the standing against of oil spills and things like that, and standing against what is trying to kill nature. So we can just stand against that is how I take it.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned ecosystem 2 times. I think we're the only species who think we can manipulate and be better and like kill other species. And, that made me super aware, because my dad kind of predicted, and he was saying in like the 90s that America will be the coldest place, compared to
wow.
I grew up in Siberia, and he was writing books on that. And I would never like know how he predicted that, but I guess, that was the trajectory. And it's fascinating to like wake up in the desert and see snow on the car. I would never expect that. And, I did a lot of research, and now there's about like 60 scientists who are very renowned around the world as saying, let's release particles in the air that will kind of like block the sun, and reflect the sun back, because there's something that's happening with the sun. But then there's others who say like, let's do research before doing that. So there's so many things that are happening, which, usually people don't know that are happening. I think the satellites definitely created a lot of disruption, like all the satellites there's definitely a media war between countries. And as you see all these spy balloons and everything flying around, there's all the satellites in space as well, that are creating disruption with the ecosystem, because somebody wants to be the first one to go to space, to Mars or whatever, the competition is between Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and everybody else. So I do agree, you can't control anybody else. Kay, with you, all you can do is control yourself. But also I think I felt compelled to bring this kind of awareness. I think, we do an Earth Day, and it's something bigger than yourself and your greed, and just collect trash from everywhere where we go with the kids. And try to be sustainable, but it is a little bit scary. I think it's important to prepare for earthquakes. We have all the kits. It is just good to have things and be ready in case of something happens.
I agree.
Yeah, there's an actor who I forgot his name, but he caused a lot of trouble, I think, a lot of years ago, because he would show up at the Oscars on a bicycle, and his agents would be like, I don't think it's a good idea. Somebody famous also. I read it in New York Post and I forgot who it was, but he would go everywhere on the bicycle. And I thought it's such a cool thing to do, because maybe it's not going to look as like important or whatever, but you also, it's such a like rebellious thing to do, to stand for what you believe.
It is. In a lot of ways, I think so. A lot of people stand alone when they are standing up for what they believe in, even if they're the only one standing. But that takes courage, I think that takes a ton of courage. So I think that was a really good topic, Eugenia. I appreciate you bringing that up. That's something I don't really think about. And I think it's great to explore topics like that a lot of people like me don't even think of, because I do believe we can make a difference if we try. It just has to matter to enough people. So I guess we are on to our final topic, good old COVID. So my question surrounding COVID and the pandemic is, there have been a lot of people that have been diagnosed with what is called long COVID. They'll have COVID and then the symptoms will linger. And something I saw recently was that a lot of employers are not being supportive of that. They're not, because I know a lot of times in the beginning, they would give people like 2 weeks off if they had COVID instantly. That's been taken away by a lot of employers. Some people are in such bad shape that they can't even work. And some people have even been trying to get on disability. I'm just curious what everyone's thoughts are on this, on the long COVID, on employers not being understanding. And I will start with, Kay.
Well, this is really interesting to me, because at one point I thought that I might have long COVID, and there's a special like specialty clinic out at USC in California that's very specific and studies long COVID. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky to have this clinic so close. You know, it's less than an hour from where I live. And so I called and they gave me all this great information. They've been doing all this research and they have like 6 different, you know, they don't just do heart. They look at your heart. They look at your brain. They look at your mental state. They go over it. They just give you a full workup. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Like, I feel like it's lining up with some of the symptoms I'm having. And then at the end they go, but you should know, no insurance covers this. So even to come for the initial workup, you know, it's going to be a few $100s and you have to pay that out of pocket. And, you know, you're going to meet with 6 different specialists and they're all out of pocket more than likely. They're like, the best your insurance could probably do is do like out of network and maybe you can see if you can be reimbursed. I was like, what?
Mhm.
I was just like, great. So I thought I found something wonderful. And then, but it turned out to, it worked out for me because I ended up getting in touch with a friend that's actually a family doc. And I didn't think I would be able to get in with him, but it was the same insurance in situation. He was like, see if I would take you on as a new patient. He was like, I'm not necessarily taking new patients, but I know you, so I'll take you on as a new patient. But you have to check it through your insurance. So luckily my insurance did check through him and I was able to get like a full workup and everything. It turns out I just had a vitamin D deficiency and iron deficiency. I had some other stuff. So it was like, once I was able to get all of that, because it was so out of whack, like my ranges were insane. Nobody's vitamin D is like 70 to 200 or something. I had like 12, you know, it was just like, were nuts. So I was having crazy symptoms, you guys. My memory was awful. Like, it was just bad. My iron, the same thing, super, super low, single digit type situation. So I was lucky because I was able to get a doctor that lined up with my insurance, but I saw how difficult it would have been to get specialty treatment had I had long COVID. It's insane. It's not accessible for the normal human person. I mean, even my doctor was like, well, if you did have long COVID, the first thing I would have to do is refer you to like, you have to go to like a neurosurgeon because they would need to check your brain, you know, all that stuff first. And then you would need a pulmonologist because they would have to check your lungs. I mean, it was just like a whole situation, which still would have been expensive. I wouldn't have necessarily had to go through the USC route, but it's just insane. I mean, you know, anytime we talk about healthcare in this country is crazy because everything is connected to your employment, unlike in tons of other countries. I am a proponent of universal healthcare. I really think that's just what we should be doing in this country. We have way too many people that are underinsured and uninsured. I think a lot of things are changing now and that's good, but it's still not where it needs to be, especially not for a country as prosperous and as rich as this country is. It's just ridiculous, the healthcare imbalances that we have here. So I really, really feel for people who are in that situation because I felt like I was really close to it. And it's just upsetting to feel like, oh, here's a solution here that looks amazing. Oh, wait, I'm priced out of it, right? And it's not like being priced out of a really cute house or a really cool pair of shoes that I wanted.
Yeah.
It's literally healthcare, which should be a universal human right, right? So it's just, it's infuriating and it's just depressing. I mean, some things America gets right, but this is one of the things where I'm just like, we are so backwards in this country. I don't even know. I mean, Eugenia can probably speak to it even better because she's been in a country that has universal healthcare, but I just, you know, it's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Eugenia, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I still agree with you, Kay. Like the healthcare in this country, I think I stopped being sick once I moved here. And talking about somebody who, you know, has means, I can never see my doctor because they're busy. Like I think COVID started a lot of problems showing up at, you know, emergency rooms where doctors were not present, and maybe it wasn't COVID, something else. I didn't have COVID, luckily, but, you know, I just never felt like I had any kind of care. Even having kids, you have to sign so many papers right before labor. I mean, my husband delivered my second baby in the hospital corridor, you know. I mean, it was like I could have gone to Russia not to
Wait, Eugenia, wait, no, we cannot let that, we cannot go on to the next slide. Your husband delivered your baby in the hospital corridor.
Yeah, that's what happens, because nobody knows you're having a baby, and you have to pay a lot of money to have a room, right? But
Yep.
then you never know when it happens. The rooms might be busy. So it's not guaranteed, which I understand that, I don't consider myself privileged in that sense. And I was like, okay, fine. But then, you have to sign 50 paperwork when you're in labor saying that, like if you guys make any mistakes, it's all my fault. And then, there might be no doctor on site because they're all busy. So
Well, tell me this, Eugenia. Okay, I'm going off topic, but I don't care. This is too insane for me. So I remember when I went to deliver my first daughter in the hospital, the nurse said to me, the doctor is running late. There's a chance. She's like a nurse practitioner. She goes, there's a chance I might have to deliver your baby. I've done it before. It's not a big deal. She goes, but just so you know, I go, oh, well, great for you. You get the money for it, or I make some joke. And she goes, oh no, even if I deliver your baby, the doctor gets paid.
Oh,
Like they pay the doctor, even if the nurse delivers the baby. So I'm wondering, did you save on the delivery because your husband delivered the baby?
I'm sure I didn't. I mean, my doctor is, he's so kind, and he had a wedding at the weekend. It wasn't his fault. He told me he's going away, and it just happens, nature takes its course. But yeah, there's so many problems with the system. Like I remember when I traveled a lot, I would go to Brazil to fix my teeth. Honestly, because the system is so great there. Like they have amazing doctors who are compassionate. I know they're going to care. They're not only going to care about insurance. And if I do something like sign this paper and then they don't care, there's a reason why crazy podcast, Dr. Death was so popular here because, it's true. People just, they don't have as much compassion. Like growing up in Russia, okay, doctors were drunk, and that was not okay, but at least they were compassionate, like even growing up in post-Soviet Russia, I always felt like, they cared about you. Like they're really.
Eugenia, I'm sorry. We just need a whole healthcare episode just with you telling us stories about things. Because you just said the doctors were drunk, and then you just expected us to walk past that too. We can't do this with you. We cannot continue.
That's what my mom said. I got delivered when it was Christmas, it was like pre-New Year in Russia. And she's like, it was on the metal bed. And, they just told me to push this baby out of the way. And that's it. But still, there's some doctors who had compassion. Here, a lot of times they just see money, whatever, insurance, no insurance. I'm scared to go to doctors here. Honestly, I love holistic doctors. I went to India to do all the research about Ayurveda and, how to self-heal yourself. I have a lot of research in that. I try to do preventative medicine and, do as much vitamin C and things like that, and not pills. I don't take pills. A lot of times I try not, of course, if you have a, infection, you thank God for antibiotics. But if I try to stay away from pills, even talking about mental health, I went to therapists when I was feeling sad, and they're like, oh, just take this prescription and that prescription. I'm like, no, that's like a, little band-aid. And I don't do that.
Yeah.
I research and see what's the cause of it spiritually. I feel like we're amazing healers ourselves, talking about people who heal cancer themselves, who heal, it's all in your mind. I was in India and they told me that 100% of diseases are mind related as well.
Oh.
So I feel always, just connecting that body, spirit, and mind is something that I personally try to work on, but trying to trust outside sources, forget it. And I feel terrible, Kay, for, whatever you had to go through. I can just imagine what people are struggling with, especially in corporations like Amazon and other places.
Yeah, I agree with both of you that I think America's healthcare system is so broken. It is so broken. And it is, I think, a lot of corporate greed, a lot of money. And I think there's a lack of compassion, like you said, Eugenia. And I don't know if or when this healthcare system is going to be fixed. It just seems like it continues to be more and more greedy. What about you, Holly? What do you think?
Wow. I'm gonna agree with Eugenia. I'm gonna agree with Kay on this, and you on this. Our healthcare system is completely. As far as COVID, I couldn't even be there when my first niece was born. She was born without any doctor. She was born into a room with isolation. I mean, it was literally like so bad. It was so bad. I had to see her on a Zoom, and I had to see her 10 days later. And for me, that was surreal. For me, I didn't care so much because it was my sibling's life. Of course, it was the birth of her daughter, but that woke me up to, oh my gosh, am I going to see my second niece? I mean, are they tending to this baby well? I mean, and what's going to happen when they get out of the hospital? You know, those sort of things just kind of like consumed my mind. Like, what's going to happen once? I mean, is this child even going to be breastfed well? Are they even going to follow the system? That sort of thing. You know, so as far as the wellness of the child, I think as far as the condition of where everything is at, yes, I think that healthcare needs to be more for the elderly. I think that this system and the government is not honoring the elderly. I think that the elderly need to be honored. I think that the health plan was really to honor our generation and to get us on board, because some of the politics kind of aimed at the millennials and wanted the voice of the millennials to back up the healthcare system. And so the healthcare system was really anti the elderly. You know, they really didn't back the elderly because these were not good health plans. These were not good health benefits and things like that. So I just feel like they weren't there to honor legacy, and they weren't really there to honor our great grandmothers and things like that, and people that we actually need to learn from, and people that we need survival. So that you do it when Eugenia was right when she said where are we all going? Well, we'll all know how to cook a meal. We'll all know how to boil our own water. We'll all go back to the basics of skills for living that we have that this generation has absolutely no clue about, but that I still want to learn. So before all of it collapses on us. So, so that's just my take.
Yeah, I think all of us have a very similar view on this. And I know for me, Kay, I really appreciate you bringing your experience with COVID. I actually had COVID 6 weeks ago, and I'm still not 100%, and I'm healthy. I'm a healthy weight. I exercise, I eat right, but I still am not 100%. And that's what kind of led me down this little rabbit hole. And I'm like, I wonder how the healthcare system treats this now. And, it really, jobs don't care. They expect you to be there. And if you have COVID, then most places that I know about, they no longer treat it as, okay, we'll give you 2 weeks to recover. It's, you use your sick time. If you don't have it, you're SOL. And as far as the healthcare system, one example I have is my husband and I, we had a short-term insurance policy a while ago. And I had some basic lab work done. And guys, it was like a couple $1,000s for basic lab work. I got the bill in the mail and I was like, what is this? What is this? And I remember being at the doctor's office and talking to the lady, and I said, here's my insurance card. Do you take this? Oh, yes, honey, we take it. Everything's fine. I said, okay. I said, so I'm not going to get an $800 bill in the mail, right? That was just a figure I threw out. Oh, no, you won't get that much. Nope, I got more than double that. And I was just in shock. I was like, I'm paying for insurance, and you told me that you take it, and basic lab work was almost $2,000. It just floored me. And so that's where I feel like, and that's where I feel like everybody deserves good healthcare, period. And the United States, it's just broken. It's absolutely broken. So, well, we had some very good topics tonight, everybody. Is there anything else anyone wanted to share before we sign off for the night?
I'll see you ladies on the other side. Where sewing and boiling water is.
All right. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you guys. I just want
We'll
to
see
say,
you next time.
yeah, we'll see you next time.